Welcome into the season podcast, episode 32. Reminder, if you're listening on YouTube, to hit subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at The Season Pod. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, I mean, if you're listening by this point, you got to love us. So hit 5 stars. How hard is that?
Yeah.
Right?
The 5 stars are going up right now.
You got to do it. This is a special week. It's Super Bowl 60. We're Tuesday in Super Bowl week. But that is not the only thing going on this week. Something else special is going on this week. On February 6th, which is Friday, ESPN is releasing its 30 for 30 called the Philly Special, where we get to go back and watch, chronicled, one of the greatest, most iconic moments in sports history. Not just football, like sports history, period. And that has sort of set the pace and the theme for our show today. And it is why we have a very, very special guest today. Because the Super Bowl is not the only thing going on. The Philly Special. We're going to revisit that a little bit. We're going to talk about football, all those things. So we are very, very pleased and excited to welcome our next guest. Our next guest was a long-time NFL vet before getting into coaching. He made his NFL coaching debut in 2009 before going to the Kansas City Chiefs to become the offensive coordinator in 2013. He came back to Philly in 2016 to be the head coach for 5 years, 3 postseason bursts, and the franchise's first Super Bowl. And he's here to talk about it with us today. We are thrilled on the season podcast to welcome Doug Pederson to the show.
How about that, Doug?
Thank you. That's an intro right there.
That's
now.
a lot of time
That's
and
impressive.
That's a lot of time and effort right there you put in.
Doug, welcome to the show, man. We really appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, this is a special week for a number of reasons, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making the time and love the hat. Thanks for supporting. I'm glad you still have it. I know you got a tea time coming up, and we're going to talk a lot of fun football, Philly special, and then what Evan and I talked about all throughout the year, just the landscape of the NFL and these 2 Super Bowl teams, just the seasons they've had, the quarterback play, the coaches, and everything in between. So it'll be a lot of fun.
So you guys spent, I think it was a couple months ago, you guys went out to Philly with the 4 kind of main players of the play. So Jason Kelce, Trey Burton, Corey Clement, Nick Foles, and also Doug Pederson. Went out to Philly, spent some time with ESPN to film this special that's being released on Friday. I'm here today with the 2 guys that kind of like, in a way, shaped history of the NFL, right? This unbelievable play, the franchise's first Super Bowl. But you guys haven't had a chance to just collect yourself, sit here and just hang out and talk about it. Like this was almost a decade ago, and this is like the first time this has happened. So I kind of feel cool to be a part of this too, to be able to sit here and have a discussion with you guys about it, you know?
Yeah, I think we thought when we did the 30 for 30, we'd get some of that time. But, Doug, you remember when we pull up to the parking lot in front of the stadium, I mean, they get the mics on you quick. Like, I'm trying to say hi. I haven't seen Doug in a while. I haven't seen Jeannie in a while. And right away, the mic's right above us. Like, we haven't even said hi. And they're getting everything. So, I don't know what you remember about that day, but it was great catching up. But you can't just sit here and just chop it up.
It was good to catch up with all you guys. And really, you're right. I mean, as soon as we got out of the car, I mean, mics were on. They were putting a little powder on our faces for the camera, and we're in South Philly at the stadium, and it was a whirlwind kind of a day. But I'll tell you what, there was a special time though to kind of reminisce and go down sort of memory lane with all you guys, about that season and obviously about that play.
I don't want to give it away because I want people to watch. And I obviously haven't seen the rough cut of it. I think you guys have been able to prove some of it and all that. But I think for people outside of Philly too that might be listening, it might be hard to understand how much sports shapes Philly culture, right? And all the different communities in Philly, from South Philly all the way to the Jersey Shore, right? What happens in sports shapes so much of it. And my understanding of the show is it really jumps into talking to folks in these various communities and seeing the various ways this play has impacted those communities and those people. And I think maybe 9 years later, this crystallizes a little bit more for you guys about the impact from a cultural standpoint this had on the city. I mean, has it crystallized a little bit more for either one of you?
Well, for me, it has, and it has, but it's ongoing, and it's so many people you meet around the country or even around the world when you travel to Europe. And we were in Italy last summer, and people over there recognize who you are, and they're talking about the Philly special and the Eagles and bringing home a Super Bowl and how appreciative they are. It's just, and then you have a chance to watch the sort of the rough cut of the Philly special. And to me, it really brought the essence of the city of Philadelphia and the passion that they have for the Eagles and the camaraderie and how just excited they were. And there's even clips in the show that that show where the fans were at when we won the Super Bowl that year. And it never gets old. It never gets old. Kind of going down memory lane with a fan or somebody down here in Jupiter, Florida, or wherever you're at. Obviously, it was a special time to bring the first World Championship to the city and to the Eagles organization is something they can never take away, and you'll always remember.
Yeah, I mean, when we were there filming it and going down memory lane, I think it's just fun being together. You're not you when you're in the moment, like when we were going through that season, we talked about it, how guys really embrace this moment because this team will never be the same. Like, and I know you had a lot of veterans speak who had won Super Bowls or been a part of it or been a part of special teams, just embrace this moment. And we did. I felt like we really owned that moment. And then to film the 30 for 30, you've seen the final copy. I have it. I just haven't had time to sit down because of the kids. So I think we're going to watch it in the next couple of nights with some friends. But even the rough cut, I mean, I was teary-eyed at parts just when it was Lily, the emotional parts, just seeing the story. I think they portrayed it really well. And then when we were filming, I remember when we were driving in the what was it, like the trolley, and the lady drove by us and she saw everyone in the trolley, like, and she started freaking out, and then they were filming her, and then they had to get her email so she could sign a waiver, and she was just having so much fun. Her son was in her car seat behind us saying, like, future quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's when you realize how much we know how much it means to the city, to the fan base, and I think for Doug and I, it's just such an honor to have been a part of it, which is such a great group of people. That was the biggest thing, was just such a great group of people. And the guys who were there filming it are just a small unit of like what our team was. So just a special year.
I saw a picture of all you guys together. And for a minute, I was like, who is security on the far right in this picture? Corey Clement is swole as can be. Like, what is that guy doing now, right? Oh, my goodness. I'm like, they got security traveling with him, right?
I think he's boxing or something now. Obviously, he hasn't given up his dream of playing in the National Football League, but I think he's boxing and doing all kinds of staying in shape. You're right. He was swole up and looked really good when we were there in Philly.
Man, I'll tell you what. If my arms looked like that, I'd be wearing cutoff shirts. I wouldn't even have sleeves for my shirts. I'd just be wearing cutoff shirts every single day. But I'm wearing a hoodie right now, so obviously I don't.
So, Doug, obviously, I was there in person for the play, and I remember asking Nick, like, shortly after, and I've asked him many times since, when you guys, because obviously to run a play like that in a game, you got to have a lot of confidence in it and how it looked in practice, right? And I've asked Nick many times, like, how did it look in practice? He swears that, like, oh, we were dialed in practice. It always looked really good in practice. So I had all this confidence, but I want to know how Doug felt based on his confidence level and how this thing was run in practice. What did you see when you drilled this thing in practice, how you felt about it?
The truth comes out now.
I want to hear.
The truth comes out. I'll tell you this, when we I installed the play in the meeting, and then we went down to the walkthrough, and we kind of walked through it and this, that, and then we kind of ran it live in practice, and it didn't look good. I think Trey overthrew you the first time.
Ow.
Threw it in the back corner of that indoor facility, and it was like, oh no, this is not how I envisioned this play looking, but we kept repping it. We kept it in, and for whatever reason, I always just wanted to keep it in the game plan, and hopefully we could use it at some point. Never thought it would be in the Super Bowl, but glad we did.
What week was it put in?
Initially wasn't the best.
What week was it put in? How long?
This is where Doug and I, when we were filming the 30 for 30, had a deep discussion of the week it was put in, because we have some disagreements. I swear it was either the bye week before the playoffs or the divisional week, but we didn't have it on the call sheet. That was the first time it was repped and the thought was created.
You never dropped it, right?
I don't ever remember dropping the ball. I mean, I always feel, but you go back, hindsight's 20, like you. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You inflate things. So, like, I'm thinking, like, when I played high school ball, I'm, like, dunking everything. I'm like, I probably didn't have as many dunks. But it's like, I felt like everything was really good with the play. But maybe it was just, like, I get to go out on a route. I get to catch a ball. Trey gets to throw it. This is, like, a fun play. Sort of like backyard football sort of thing. So, it was really high on my list. But when we did the 30 for 30 and talking to Doug, and I know Doug believed in me, but I don't think it was as high on everyone else's list as it was on my list. Right. But I'm glad it was high on my list.
Doug, that might explain. So when he comes over to the sideline, you have your play sheet. I've watched this many times, and I'm glad I get to ask you both about it. You are in the process of pointing to something before he says you want Philly, Philly. And I'm guessing you were not pointing to Philly special. What were you pointing to?
No, absolutely not. And to this day, I still can't remember what I was pointing at, but I've seen that clip many times. I am looking down at my call sheet and got my finger on something. And I'm getting in the headset too. The thing is too, is I initially got a few suggestions, Frank Reich, offensive coordinator, and John D. Filippo, and some of these guys were giving me some suggestions, but then eventually I just turned my mic off before Nick got over to the sideline so I could kind of focus in on and hear, myself think. And then Nick finally comes over and he suggested the play. And again, that's kind of my pause, was like, oh my gosh, this is the play. This is where we need to call it. This is going to be perfect timing, and I think that by Nick suggesting that, obviously it triggered in my brain that it was the right time to call it. And I just hesitated and said, hey, let's do it. The thing is too, for me, I also, my hesitation too was probably from the standpoint of, and this is well documented about our team that year, is I don't want to say we gambled, but we went for things a little bit more than the rest of the NFL did that season. We went for it more on fourth down. We went for it more 2-point conversions, things of that nature. So our team, and Nick kind of talks about this in the special, but our team was built for those moments. We were prepared for those opportunities, and so that's why nobody batted an eye. And I think that's even why I felt comfortable with calling that play at that particular time, because my trust and my faith in the players, and we had repped it so many times. In fact, I spoke with Frank Reich yesterday on the phone, and Frank was like, do you remember that, like the night before in the hotel, we actually repped that play again in the ballroom. We moved the chairs back. We pushed everything back. We spent so much time. There's probably not another play on that game plan that we spent more time on than the Philly special, know? It just was, it was a perfect timing. It was obviously a great suggestion and call there by Nick. And just, it hit me as if, hey, this is the time to do it. We got here for a reason, and our reason was we stayed aggressive all season, and now's a perfect time.
He says he hesitated. If he did, it was like a split second, because he immediately goes, "No, let's do it." Like, so, if that's a hesitation,
Doug, you've talked to Peter King, because Peter King's writing that book of his 40 years of covering sports, and each year he picks like a significant moment that year, and our Super Bowl is that, and it's actually not the Philly special; it's a play later. It's the one that Ertz caught on the slant route, but he wanted to talk about the Philly special. And I think he said he had talked to you, and he actually did like a timer. Like when I go over there and ask, and then when you do it, it's like 2.32 seconds or something, give or take. So you and I do a bunch of speaking engagements. So once I found this out, I was actually going out to Philly for a speaking engagement, and I actually was telling this story, and I had new information from Peter King, because I actually had never timed it. I never thought of that. So I did the 2.32 second pause in the I just stopped talking, and I'm like, that's sort of awkward, guys. Yeah. Like, that's sort of like, there's 2.32 seconds is a lot of time.
Are you saying that was his pause after you suggested
No, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of things that go into that moment where there's a pause, and everyone's, just like, what's going to happen? Because Doug alludes to it or talks about it on 30 for 30. His headset's off. No one can hear. It's just, it's really cool, because it was just Doug and I. In this stadium full of people, millions of people watching on TV, it's just Doug and I talking, which is really cool, because I always tell people there's more to this story. Like, Doug was my quarterback coach my rookie year. Doug was the one at Westlake High School that was in the parking lot waiting for me to go throw that one divide route that fluttered, but gave me another chance to rip it. There's all these moments that you go back to this pivotal moment in history where I jog over there just slow enough so he could collect his thoughts. Because if I got over there too fast, thank goodness I'm not fast, because if I got over there too fast, there might have been another play.
Very true.
Just slow enough to get over there to where the headset's off. And Frank portrays this well, and this is the truth. I suggest a play, but it's Doug who has to accept and call the play. Yeah. Like, Doug can be like, hey, that's great, we'll do it later. We're doing this right now. But I appreciate Doug, and this is what I always love playing for him. He sits there, he thinks about it for those 2.3 seconds and say, yeah, let's do it. But that's trust. That's him, us working together as a team, as a head coach and a quarterback, to then go out there and run one of the ballsiest play in Super Bowl history. and executed at a high level. But I think the biggest thing that people don't realize is, especially with the special and everything, the game still was going on. So, like, we call the play, we execute it, we celebrate for 10 seconds, we get to the sideline, it's locked back. Because if we stopped the game right there with how many points we had, we got killed. We would have gotten beat. We needed more plays.
Destroyed.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that it's a symbolic play because it represented our team. Doug and that staff were that was the first year people started going for it on fourth down. Now it's sort of, I think, gone a little crazy where, Dan Campbell goes like 0 for 7 in the game on fourth down. It's like at some point maybe just punt it deep and play the field position game. But we were ingrained at that moment where no one blinked. No one moved. Our offense stayed there, and I just ran over there to suggest to play to Doug because people don't realize this, but in our headset, like, I can't talk to him in the headset. I need to go over there and talk to him. So I think –
And to me, and to me too, that I get asked this quite a bit, and Nick, you probably do too, but to me, that wasn't the biggest play of the game.
No.
Everybody thought that was a great play, and obviously it helped us win and at that moment, and I guess just the way it was, fourth down and all that, but to me, that wasn't necessarily the play of the game. I thought the play of the game was the other 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter, where we got 2 yards.
So
you're talking about Maestro?
I got a question about this. So you went forward on fourth down. He throws the ball to Zach Ertz for a first down. I heard, someone told me that on third down, Nick called the wrong play in the huddle. He read the wrong play off the wristband, so you had to go forward on fourth because he screwed up third down. Is that true?
And Evan, I did not know that until after the game when Frank Wright came up to me in the dressing room and says, "Hey, you remember that third down call you called before the fourth down?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Nick called the wrong play." I go, what are you talking about? He called the wrong play. Because I was on to, like, if that didn't work, I was on to the fourth down call. Or if we get it, I was on to the first down. So my head was down. I had no idea that Nick called the actual wrong play. He looked at the wrong wristband play. And that's what got us to fourth.
Those
down.
Arizona guys struggle to read, man.
Those 2 plays right there were to me the deciding moments of that game.
What's so funny about that? And I was talking to Ev because you and I have done this so many times. Like, let me find some unique stuff that Doug and I haven't talked about. And just people love that Super Bowl. Obviously, Eagles fans and that 3rd and 1. I think it actually made sense. You called it. It was like a RPO slider to Torrey Smith, and I read the end through it. I can't remember if we completed it or it was batted down or whatever. But obviously went to 4th and 1. We ran Maestro. I slid left. Zach makes a great play, keeps the drive alive. Huge play in the game because we don't get that. Game's over. Like, they're going to run out the clock. Game's over. I did not know that I miscalled that play until the following OTAs. I remember I was sitting in our offensive staff in the spring. I was sitting in our offensive staff room, and I don't know if it was Spencer Phillips or if it was you or if it was Mike Groh, but we're just sitting there and I'm having a great day. We had a great day at work, and someone just came up to me and was like, "You realize you like miscalled a play in the Super Bowl?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I did not realize this up to that point. Like, yeah, the 4th and 1 to Zach, the play before that. That was not what Doug called. You actually went wristband below or above. And I literally for the rest of it, and at this point, like, we've won the Super Bowl, we've celebrated, we've had the parade. I just sat there horrified, just thinking, I don't even know if I slept that night. I could not believe that I miscalled a wristband call in the Super Bowl.
So he called like play 50 and you read play 49. Is basically
like
what it was,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Okay. Along those lines.
Hey, but I think the moral of this is life is not perfect. And the game is not perfect.
Clearly.
And it's just how you deal with imperfections and overcome them and just stay focused. So, like, there's a positive in there.
I hear, like, so
100%.
To go back to the structure of the play, I hear you guys talking about how it was, like, almost symbolic of that season and the risk-taking and all these, like, you guys had this underdog mentality, too. I think one of the things that people miss about this play is that you have, and I don't want to understate how amazing Jason Kelce is. He's a 6-time All-Pro, but a 6th-round pick who a lot of people when he started his career felt was like a little bit undersized, maybe overlooked, snapping the ball to an undrafted guy in Corey Clement, pitching the ball to an undrafted like 2nd or 3rd string tight end in Trey Burton, throwing the ball to, obviously you were the starting quarterback in this game, but a guy that replaced the starter.
I can handle
it. Right?
it.
So you have all these guys in the mix of the play. So Doug, I think my question for you is, as you were devising and building this play, obviously Nick's your quarterback, there's no doubt there. But as far as the other 3, like I just told you, like their credentials, like your starting center is Jason. But how do you land on that group to execute this play? I mean, even though I think it is symbolic of what this team was all about.
Yeah, I mean that's such a crucial part of the play, right? Especially a trick play, having the right pieces in the right places and being able to pull this off. Well, Trey was obviously a baseball player and a football player, quarterback. It could throw a ball and so I thought, okay, he would be the perfect one to throw the ball. And then you start thinking about, okay, could have been Zach Ertz. Well, the whole game, New England was focused on Zach Ertz, especially when we got into the red zone. They were doubling him a lot in that game. You had Torrey Smith and you had Alshon Jeffrey. Nelson Aguilar could have been an option in those situations, but I thought, okay, having Alshon and Torrey in the game, those are our two starting receivers, Zach Ertz. So it would at least take the element of surprise away from the Patriots. And then, of course, I think everybody's sort of hold your breath moment was Jason Kelsey snapping it to Corey Clement.
Yeah.
Because if you know, and Nick, you know this, those are fastballs that come back there from Jason.
Yeah.
Especially in the shotgun. And then being able to coach, it's interesting, but when you teach the pistol formation, the running back is usually 2 to 2.5 yards behind the quarterback, in a true pistol setup. But we taught Corey that when he comes in behind Nick, literally get right behind Nick. So Nick and Corey are moving kind of at the same time, which if the ball was snapped, it would have been an illegal shift, 2 men in motion type thing. The play would have been dead. But having Corey come in there, and coaching it up, taking and receiving the snap, a dead ball pitch, meaning let's pitch the ball straight up. Don't pitch it out, because what can happen is, it may bounce off of, Trey's chest and the whole thing. Corey did an outstanding job of pitching it straight up. Nick obviously got set right behind Lane, so we didn't have any motion going on. Corey got set, and then the play design was just, basically executing it and getting the ball to Trey, and then Trey just flipping it. So, but yeah, you're right. Trying to get the right pieces at the right time. And then that's where all the repetitions for the weeks leading up to that play, those guys having confidence that they were going to, and I thought too, the players, those 11 players took ownership of this play, and Nick alludes to this in the special too. Like, what are we, the cadence, how are we going to do the cadence? What's the line protection going to look like? That's where you start seeing all the dynamics of this play sort of behind the scenes, really make this a special play for these guys.
Yeah, I think everyone who hears this and loves the Philly Specialists, loves sports in general, the 30 for 30 is going to be awesome. Like, it's fantastic. It gives you so much detail. But listening to you talk about it right there, I'm like, man, there's a lot that could have gone wrong in that play. My mind just stayed positive all week. I guess I just wasn't thinking anything negative. But then a thought just came to me for the first time as a coach and a play caller. And I know as a quarterback, you're watching the other side of the ball. So you're watching the New England Patriots offense. And there's sometimes you will see them rep a play. Maybe it's like a play action, like deep cross post, and it doesn't look good. You're like, and it sort of messes your mind. Like, oh, you know what? I'm going to hold off on that. That doesn't look good. Just it can play games with you. Well, I'm actually shocked because Tom, the Patriots had ran a version of the Philly special, and he dropped it right in front of you and myself. I'm behind you.
He heard footsteps
and something. And I'm surprised that makes the play even more special because you had just seen that, and for you to accept and say, "Yeah, let's do it," after watching Tom, I guess he was open for a second. So after him drop it, I mean that just shows you more confidence. So I appreciate that. But I just thought of that right now is thank goodness that didn't swayed you away of not letting us run it because it was such a huge play in the game. But at the same time too, it's a mentality. I think when you see the clips of the play, it like pans to the sideline. You see Malcolm Jenkins and you see our defense. And I always tell this to people, when coaches on fourth down, when it makes sense and they just kick the field goal, like if we'd have kicked the field goal right there, right? Yeah, you take 3 points. You're most likely going to make it. But you're sort of sending a message to your team that you're afraid. Like your 4th and 1 Super Bowl, it's not a good message. And people don't realize like so much of this game, and Evan and I talk about, is just mentality and heart. So, like, our mentality, even, like, 4th and 1, like, it's a mentality. It's an aggressive mentality. It's a we're not playing with fear mentality. And the only way you win those big games is without fear. And when you make a mistake, like, I threw an interception in that game. I threw a deep ball down the right. Alshon almost catches it, but it gets tipped up. It's a pick. I mean, I remember we ran over to the sideline. I don't think I don't even know if we talked. Like, I just sat down and was just ready to play. Like, we didn't bat an eye. I was like, all right, it's a deep punt. Let's move on. it was just that was the mentality of that team, and it starts from Doug. Like Doug throughout the year coached that into us with his coaching staff, with the leaders on the team. So it all culminated in that Super Bowl.
And if you remember that, Nick, we started working on fourth downs back in the offseason,
Yeah.
in the OTAs. And we'd have periods throughout the course of the week in OTAs that say, hey, it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3, put ourselves in these scenarios. And then it carried over to training camp and ultimately the regular season. But, to your point there, there was an article that came out prior to us going to Minnesota. And it might have been too, maybe when we just got to Minnesota earlier in that week, there was an article that sort of got under my skin that came out. And I think it was in one of the Boston papers, but it basically was about me and my decisions and being a rookie head coach in a Super Bowl. Is Coach Peter, it basically kind of came out and said, is Coach Pederson going to be as bold in the Super Bowl as he was during the regular season? And that bothered me. And I never told anybody this. I never publicly came out, until obviously way after, but that just bothered me in a way that it was like, you know what, people don't understand. This is what got us here, right? This is the flea flicker in the Minnesota game. Yeah. We didn't have to call that play, but we call a flea flicker. You hit Torrey in the corner of the end zone, and it was a beautiful play. And, things that just kind of culminated and got us to that game. But that article really kind of sat with me the whole week. And I was like, you know what? No, they don't know who I am. They might think I might clam up and be cautious in that situation, kick the field goal. We go up 18-12, I think, at halftime instead of 22-12, whatever. And, but that sat with me too in my mind going into that game. Like, listen, I'm not going to change just because we're in the biggest game of our lives. I'm going to continue to coach the way I coached all season, because that also helped us get to this, to this point.
Wow. You think about the greatest plays in sports history, specifically football, in championship moments like that. Like you can go back to like the David Tyree catch. Julian Edelman in his Patriot Super Bowl had that one that bounced around before he snatched it. Plaxico Burress on that sluggo. Jerome Harrison with that pick six. Like there's all these iconic plays. Very few, if any, are trick plays, right? That's the amazing thing here. It sounds like the night before the game you guys had a special guest speaker that actually said too, like, and you guys already had this play ready, but just coincidentally said, like, make sure you have a great trick play ready to roll.
Yeah, Doug had brought in Brett Favre to speak to us, and it was cool, listen to Brett, and, obviously one of the greatest of all time, and just afterwards, I think Doug, myself, maybe Frank, Carson, we all went over to the side, and we were talking, and I went up to Brett because my dad grew up, my dad's from Mississippi, and grew up playing baseball against Brett's dad. So I wanted to say, hey, I wanted to share that information. My dad's, went to Petal High School from Pascagoula and all these different things. So right away, Brett and I were talking, and I just asked him, advice going into the Super Bowl game. And he gave some advice. He's like, hey, and have a good trick play ready. Do you all have a good trick play? I remember thinking, and honestly, there was all these little reminders throughout the week. And I was like, we do. We do. And Doug and I had talked. He said, hey, it's going to be second half. It's going to go up 2 scores. It's going to be a comfortable situation, obviously tough. Well, probably not on 4th down, probably 3rd down. So I probably didn't listen to Doug's coaching on this situation that we were going to call it on. So I most of the time was always listening to Doug's coaching, but you know what? I just think I remember little moments like that, and I had circled it here, and it's just so cool. There's so many little moments that people don't realize, like even the flea flicker, Doug. There was a story behind why we had the flea flicker in, right? Was it Andy Reid's assistant that loved the flea flicker? There was
Carol Wilson.
Yeah, Carol.
Back when I was not only a player, but I worked for Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Carol Wilson was his administrative assistant, and she always, every week when we're putting in the game plan, I'm sitting there with Marty Morningweg and Brad Childress and all these coaches, offensive staff, and we're David Culley, and we're putting these offensive game plans together. Well, Carol would always come in after we had it up on the board. I'd write everything on the board, longhand, and then Carol would come in and bring her computer and type it up. And first thing she would say to me every Monday is the flea flicker in. Is the flea flicker. My favorite
so
play
good.
in football is the flea flicker in. And I'll never forget that. And so we obviously had a flea flicker in for the Minnesota game.
Man, I
And
don't.
we had the Philly special in for Minnesota, but we didn't use the Philly special, obviously. In
Thank
Minnesota.
God.
I don't know if I've ever asked Doug this, but did I throw it to the right person? Because I feel like I talked to Nate Sudfeld like probably last year. We talked about it, and he's like, "Dude, we were all reading the deep cross to Nelson when none of us were throwing it to where you
I
were
feel
throwing."
like when you do a flea flicker
No.
too, like it shouldn't result in like a contested catch. You shouldn't have to make a perfect throw on a flea flicker. Like someone should be wide open down the field, right, to justify the risk.
And I've never asked Doug this because, I mean, he's a quarterback and he's a play caller. So you want the eyes to be in sync. I always hear this. And if I call plays, I want my quarterback's eyes to be where my eyes go most of the time. I know there's going to be some differentiations like where you go, but like right there, that's one where – did your eyes go to Torrey or did they go to the deep cross? That's what I want to know.
No, they went to the deep cross. I'm going to be honest. They went to the deep cross. But obviously, yes,
man.
they went to the right guy.
This
Yes,
road
they
to
went
the Super Bowl
right
was
guy.
paved with a
It
bunch
was
of
a
mistakes, is what it
touchdown.
was.
Dude.
But keep going, Doug.
No, it's it. My eyes did go to the deep cross, but obviously the ball's going to go where the ball wants to go, and obviously you felt great that day, and you were on fire, and man, you made a heck of a throw, great catch, touchdown. I'll take it.
I remember Nate told me he was with Frank later in the game. It's the one I sort of scramble right and throw it down the sideline, the Nelson in the NFC Championship game, and Frank went up to Nate and was like, "He's unconscious. He's unconscious." And it's like, well, thank goodness I was unconscious, man. You don't want to be conscious and thinking. So there's just so many great moments throughout that.
Well, you guys are 4-1 together in the playoffs. You know that, right? Like as a coach and a starting quarterback, your winning percentage is 800 in the playoffs, 4-1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's special. Not many. I know some coach and quarterback combos have a larger sample size, but 5 games, 4-1. I mean, that's a pretty good sample. We run this back, or what do you guys want to?
Hey, man, I love playing for Doug. It's I love playing in Philly, love playing for him. It would have been fun to stay there, but I learned so much going elsewhere. And then obviously, Doug, your path took you other places as well. I think the biggest thing, and I always tell people, when Doug would call a play, I knew what he was thinking. And that's what's important with a play caller and a quarterback. First down call, Doug calls a play. All right, I know he's thinking, hey, I'm going to take a shot down to the deep cross. Like, this is a big play. Hey, it's double stick dragon. Hey, he's just wanting a completion. I'm not alerting the go outside. I'm just taking a completion. Hey, stash wrap. Hey, where he wants the stash. Hey, man coverage. He wants the slot. So I think that was important with Doug is I knew why he was calling plays. And I think there was one time in the Super Bowl later in the game after the strip sack where I went over to him and was like, hey, what are we thinking? Because I wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Hey, are we trying to really milk the clock? And you just say, hey, we're scoring. We're scoring. So that is really important. And ultimately the success of a franchise is can the quarterback and the head coach, if he's the play caller, be on the same page in all these situations and understand why the play is called and then execute the play accordingly. And then go through your progressions and get the ball to the check down. I think as a play caller, it probably helps, Doug, when you have a quarterback that isn't going to force a ball or if it's not there, just throw it away. It allows you, hey, it's 2nd and 10. It's not you didn't take a sack for 2nd and 16. So I think that's an important part of the game.
And too, Nick, too, you think about, and Frank talked about this a little bit, and Frank said, hey, went back and watched all your clips from when you were with Chip Kelly, and especially that game, you threw, 7 touchdowns against the Raiders, I think, in that game, but went back and just kind of found plays that you were comfortable with, what you were good at. And I remember you and I think it was the bye week, or maybe before that, I can't remember exactly, but you came into my office and we were just sitting there talking, and you made a statement to me, which always stuck with me, was like, just call the same play again. If it's stash wrap, call it again. He goes, because Nick said, I'll find the completion. If it's zone, I know where to go. If it's man, I know where to go. I know where all the bones are buried on particular plays. And so as a play caller, that makes things a lot simpler, right? In my mind. So, because I know he's going to do the right thing with the football. So I could call that stash wrap play, for instance, 5 or 6 times in a game, because it might go to the tight end. It may go to the slot fade. It may go to the hitch outside, or it may go backside to the running back or the wrap. So I just knew that he was going to find the completion, right? And so, but that's just being on the same page and being able to see it the same way and understanding plays. And I learned that from Mike Holmgren in Green Bay as he taught Andy Reid when he taught us as quarterbacks, is being on the same page with the play caller. Why? It's the whys of the play. Why is he calling this play in this situation? The down and distance, the time of the game, field position, all of that stuff. Why is the coordinator calling this play at this particular time? And when you get to that point and you know exactly why, your success rate goes up, your completion percentage goes up, you stay ahead of the chains, as they say, and you know, you usually come away with a lot more wins in situations like that.
And that for everyone listening that is just maybe learning football or younger, you got some younger coaches, it starts in practice. For me as a player, there's so many times when you're younger and you're doing third down period and you're just running plays. Like you might have 3rd and 5 and like I said, double stick dragon, there's a go ball on the outside to the 3 receiver side if it's a 3-by-1 formation. And like when you're young, sometimes you just throw it. And it's like 3rd and 5 when you could have just thrown a stick for the first down sort of thing. It's taking that mindset of, hey, Doug's calling it right now, 3rd and 5. He wants the first down. So, hey, do I like the stick route outside in? I don't like it. Hey, it's 2-on-2 backside. I'm going to throw slant to flat. That's what he wants. And training yourself in practice. And you did a great job. Even competitive periods that year, we did good versus good, I think 3 days a week. You know, if it was base downs, it was whatever, third downs, we did like 3 different situations. In red zone, we did 3 different situations. And the loser did up downs or push-ups. It was a competitive period, good on good, to get the speed. And I was a big fan of that. Even at times it was like, oh, man, we're exhausted, but this is good because it ups the speed. It creates competition in these situations. And it locks the quarterback into, I'm not just going to throw an aimless go ball against a scout team defender on 3rd and 5. Like I'm trying to just get a first. I just need 5 yards. Let me just focus in on that. So in practice, you know, for those young players, those young coaches, like really lock into those periods because that's what trains you in the game to be on the same page as your coach.
That's good. To put a bow on this kind of Philly special discussion, you guys probably in the moment obviously had no idea this would end up with a statue outside of Lincoln Financial Field. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyways. Like, what does that mean to you guys, having that thing sit outside the stadium like that?
It's a great place for the pigeons to kind of take a dump.
Beyond that,
that is a good point. It's like the perfect setting for them just to sit there and just go to
dump
town.
all over.
Yeah, just right there.
Pigeons are like, we've had another one since. And
yeah, and especially the call sheet, man. That's like a little bed for them. They can just lay down that call sheet.
They can just hover right in there and just kind of nest and the whole thing. I think, and I've never been asked this question, and it's an interesting question. I think there's obviously a statue of Rocky. Rocky Balboa in the city of Philadelphia, and now there's obviously this statue of Nick and I, but it's obviously statues are put in place to remember people, places, things, events, time, whatever, and so for me looking at it, and that was the first time I put my eyes on it was when we were in Philadelphia there in September, and it's to remember, for me as the head coach, to remember the team, the players, not just that particular game, which is a big game, but that entire season and what led up to, and even the injured players that we lost that year.
Yep.
The Jason Peters, the Chris Maragoses, the Jordan Hicks. I mean, Carson Wentz, the whole thing. Darren Sproles. I mean, it's a remembrance for me, and when I see it, and other people are going to remember just the Philly special, but for me, it was just a special remembrance of that entire year, going all the way back to the off season and how we began our journey that season.
No, it's well said, Doug. I think it's really symbolic for our team. It's a great honor that we get to represent that team. There were so many great leaders, and when I look back to that year, just the amount of injuries of our Pro Bowl players and leaders on the team, and how I think the thing I always appreciated about that team is a lot of times with injuries, those players are like sent somewhere else, or they're not around the team because they don't want like players to see injured players, sort of thing. Man, we were around all those guys all the time. They were in the training room. They were in meetings. I know when Carson was hurt, once he was able to, he was in the QB film sessions at 6 a.m. where I was making the butter coffee that you eventually liked the following year. Eventually. I think that I look back and I'm the same way. People always ask me, Super Bowl this. I'm like, man, I think back to the players, the team, the coaches, the bonds, and I think back to, even when we're on stage, like my most special moment, I got teary-eyed is just holding Lily on stage with everyone up there and getting to be a dad. And it was the first time in the 30 for 30 I had heard my mic'd up on stage. And I've always told the story is like my greatest, treasure was my daughter, getting to hold her at 7 months old. And there's that picture of me pointing, and then I finally got to hear the mic'd up where I'm like, hey, there's Teal. There's Teal, because Press was with his daughter Teal, probably like, 20 yards off stage, holding her and bouncing her. And I'm just pointing to Lily, and for Lily, like, hey, there's Teal. That's your little buddy. So I agree. The statue is really symbolic. Right. I know fans love it. And, I'm just really honored that I got to play for you and come back to Philly, and you were my head coach, and we got to do something together with a great group of people.
I'm going to start crying now,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Doug, you were there for 5 years, and and had a ton of success, and you know very well that this is coaching in Philly is a fantastic organization, but the trade-off is it's a pressure cooker, right? And this year the Eagles were trying to repeat off last year's Super Bowl, and it wasn't always perfect. In fact, in some ways it was far from perfect, especially offensively. I don't think there was a coach, forget the fact he's an assistant, I don't think there was a coach in football at all levels that was under more scrutiny than Kevin Petullo was this year as the offensive coordinator. You weren't coaching this year. You had a chance to watch more NFL. Watching this, did it make you reflect a little more on that pressure of coaching in Philly and what that means? And also what were some observations you had of the Eagles offense this year and why they fell short?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of watching from afar, from a distance, and seeing what Coach Petullo was going through. Obviously, they're coming off a Super Bowl the year before. You got the reigning MVP, the whole thing. There's going to be pressure in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter where you are, but especially in Philadelphia. It might not be that way in Jacksonville, Florida, but I know that in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there's going to be pressure on that offensive coordinator, on that head coach, to try to repeat, because it's the no one is ever satisfied mentality. It's you're on to the next season, and so I think too, as I watched Jalen throughout the course of the year, I just felt like they were getting a little bit further apart, and sometimes as a play caller, when you're not on the same page, you start looking at your call sheet. And you're trying to just grasp at straws, you're just trying to find a play that works. And to me, that's kind of what it felt like with the Eagles down the stretch. Now, their offensive line was banged up. They had some injury. Obviously, it's well documented with A.J. Brown and things that he was saying about the offense and stuff, and a lot of distractions there. And I think it played heavily on Jalen, his mindset going into each week. I don't know how confident he was, maybe necessarily in the game plans. And Nick knows this. Just as a quarterback, by Friday you should have a really good feel that, hey, this game plan, I love this game plan. It's solid. It's what I need. It's for us to be successful and go win this game on Sunday. And it just appeared like maybe there was some disconnect there, and for whatever reason. Again, I'm not in the building. I don't know. It's just my observation. And then just with Jalen too, just his development, his growth. I guess to his defense, it was like his fifth coordinator.
Yeah,
in his career there, and that's tough too. Your list, even though they might have the same kind of philosophies, it's not the same. It's different. It's a different man speaking. It's a different voice. There are some things that are going to change just a little bit, and so for him, it was a challenge to kind of navigate through that and then go lead a football team on game day. So I think there's a lot of things there, but at the end of the day, they were still winning football games, which got them into the postseason. But I think it just caught up to him at the end.
Yeah, it was. I dove into just watching their offense. And I agree with you. As a former quarterback, you want to feel really confident about the game plan going in. And I thought with what I saw on tape of schematics of what they were doing, I thought the biggest thing I was most impressed with him from a player was he wasn't making bad plays worse, and he didn't turn over the ball much. He had one bad game where he had a lot of turnovers. Other than that, I thought he was pretty clean turnovers-wise. And people don't realize, turnovers are going to change the course of a lot of games. So if he's throwing the ball in harm's way a lot more and has more turnovers, they're probably going to lose 3 more games, and maybe – the NFC East, they sort of, how much they run away with it. They got it pretty good.
Yeah, it clinched pretty early.
But, I think they lose 3 more games if he's not protecting the ball. And they had to make a change, and it's going to be interesting going into this season. Sean Mannion, now the OC, They get the OC from Tampa Bay now to be the passing game coordinator. Sean's in his first year calling plays. I was with Sean his rookie year in St. Louis. They drafted him, and really impressive mind, really sharp, great preparation. I've even said probably a photographic memory. He always gave me a hard time when I say it, but like, dude, you memorize everything. Like, you for sure have it, and you utilize it well. So that'll be an interesting challenge for him. I mean, obviously Howie and Mr. Lurie and Nick Sirianni have a rhyme and reason, but to be a first-time OC with a really, really good roster, a year removed from winning the Super Bowl.
Good luck.
And now it's your first time calling plays.
Chris Long on his show called it Russian roulette, taking that job. Because either you're going to live and you're going to live large if you do well, and if you don't, you are done, dude. Like, it is, there's no middle ground, right? Like, there is such a microscope on that job right now.
Yeah, but I will say this for all the Eagles fans. I said it the other day, just from being around Sean, he's sharp. He's sharp. I mean, just because you're sharp doesn't mean you're going to be a great play caller. But he does remind me of Kellen Moore, just personality-wise, and just I got to live with Kellen for several months training for the Combine. Just the same mentality, really, really bright. Great memories, great work ethic. So they might be getting, another Kellen Moore, which is what they want.
Doug, 2 more quick things for you before we let you go. One question we had for you is what's next? I mean, there were 10 openings this offseason, and that's a crazy I think that's like second most in a while. All 9 of them have been filled. The 10th presumably will be Clint Kubiak with the Raiders, but that's not official yet. Did this stir the juices for you? Are you enjoying some time off? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah, no, you always – I miss the game. I miss the players. I miss that competition, being out there every single day and the grind. And that's kind of why you get into coaching, right, is being around the guys and building a great offense, defense. And as a head coach too, right, you're building a good organization. And, so, yeah, I definitely miss that. But again, I think the NFL has changed just a little bit. I think the success of some of these first-time young head coaches is really beginning to set in, I think, with some of these owners, and that's kind of what they're looking at. They're seeing what Coach McVay's done. I mean, he's kind of been the poster child, I guess, for young coaches coming in and having success. And so I understand it. That's fine. That's if that's the direction they want to go, that's fine. But I still have the desire to get back and coach and see where it ends up. But at the same time too, I've enjoyed the time off. It's really allowed me to, put some really good thought into what's next, and into the direction in which I want to go in my career, and whether it's staying in football or even transitioning to something else. I'm going to have some opportunities to meet with some folks, here in the next couple of weeks, and just kind of see if a door opens and might have an opportunity to step in and step through that. So, enjoying the time, right now, but I do miss the game. I miss being out on the grass with players and building those relationships and winning games on Sunday.
And we got an awesome Super Bowl matchup for Super Bowl 60. You have Mike Vrabel with a really historic turnaround of the New England Patriots. They were 4-13 each of the last 2 seasons, and a young stud at quarterback, seeming like he's totally changed the culture there in a really short amount of time, where the culture had gone since Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Playing against a Seattle team that there's a really cool story there too, with their GM John Schneider and being the only GM in the history of the league to be in be in 2 Super Bowls, and each one is with a different head coach and a completely different roster. You got Sam Darnold, who's defied a lot of expectations that people had for him this year. I think a lot of people expected him in the big moment to crash and burn, and he's exceeded our expectations with what he's been able to do as of late. What about this matchup jumps out at you, and how do you expect this game to go?
Yeah, you look at Seattle, and it kind of reminds you of like when Russell Wilson in his early days in Seattle, kind of reminds you of that same type of offense, right? The play action, the movement stuff with Sam, kind of utilizing his strengths with this offense. Obviously, got some great talent on offense, great skill positions, players. But then you look at this defense, and this defense is kind of built, and that's why I think they went out and changed their name. They kept calling it the Legion of Doom. Well, they're like, no, we got our own identity,
Yeah.
But I think it's very similar to that in a way. So there's a lot of, and that's what John Schneider kind of grew up in Seattle, and kind of learned that, and so he's kind of put the pieces together there, done an outstanding job building that roster. But I think as Sam, Obviously a first round pick, a high first round pick, kind of a journeyman early in his career, bounced around a little bit. I would say that he wasn't on great football teams, but look, here's a guy that's really just, he's persevered so much that he doesn't care what people say about him, what they write about him, what's posted, what's the good, bad, the ugly. He just goes about his business, and he got to Minnesota a year ago, and again got around some great people, a good offensive minded coach, and again I think they unlock some things with Sam, like let's build a team, let's build a scheme around a quarterback, much like we did with Nick in the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. We said, hey, if we got to change our identity just a little bit, or change the schematic of our play calling to fit Nick and what he enjoys doing, then we got to do that. And I think that's what you're seeing with Sam Darnold, and he's just thriving with it. Clint Kubiak has done an outstanding job, I think, putting him in successful situations. Obviously, running the football helps any quarterback, where it doesn't always have to be on your right arm. And then you look over at New England and what Mike Vrabel's done, and really Josh McDaniels there, just taking a young quarterback and molding him. Again, they've kind of taken the training wheels off of him a little bit this year, but at the same time, they're calling plays, what I see anyway, that help him be successful. And both teams are playing tremendous defense. Yeah. And obviously, what do they say? Defenses win championships, but in my opinion, it's the one who scores the most points and is going to win the game. So I honestly think it's going to be a great football game.
I do too.
It could be a defensive battle early, but in the end, I think Seattle is probably the more complete overall team in this game. But I'm not a betting man, so I'm not going out on a limb on that one.
Yeah, we both know all too well when we played. I don't think many people had us winning that game. So it's the any given Sunday, especially in the Super Bowl. You just got to have a great game that game. And, we had talked about it a couple weeks ago with Sam Darnold. Everyone was talking about him getting over, the hump. And I saw a big change when they played the Rams in Seattle. Was it Thursday Night Football?
The second
regular season matchup where they put up his statistics versus McVay, like hadn't won, like 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 8 interceptions, just played poorly. And then all of a sudden something shifted in the fourth quarter and in overtime, and ultimately on that 2-point conversion where he went through his progressions and got it to the tight end over the ball on a late check down. I told Ev right away, I was like, people don't realize, but as a quarterback, when you have a moment like that where you've gone against a team or a coaching staff that you struggle against and you've overcome that obstacle, it changes everything. And when they played him this last time, like, I expect Sam to have overcome that hurdle and pick up where he left off. And there's just something we both know is like, it's a tough game. You're going to struggle. You're going to do these things, but it's been cool to see him put in the work day in and day out, lean on his teammates and go. And now you see a Sam Darnold that is stronger than he's ever been. It's because he faced a team like the Rams that have had his number for so long, but he overcame that. So I see a dangerous Sam Darnold coming in the Super Bowl that can handle this stage. Just from overcoming that. And it reminded me of our divisional game against the Falcons where, I'm trying to find my rhythm. We had the bye week where we had developed a game plan and we went good versus good and all that. It was the second half of the Falcons game where I think we completed like 8 or 10 passes in a row. And all of a sudden I felt comfortable. And I was like, okay, I got it. That was a moment for me where I'm like, I'm in my subconscious. I am now just reacting to the game. The game is no longer as big as it felt. It is now just a game, and I can just play. And I see that in Sam Darnold, and I agree with you. I think Seattle's the more complete team. I think the NFC as a whole was a lot stronger than the AFC this year, but it's just one game. So who will be the best in Super Bowl 60?
Well, and look, I mean, going back to what we're talking about your guys' Super Bowl, and like a lot of what happened this year with no Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow in the race, and Sam Darnold doing what he did, and Drake May where he is. Guys doing more than what some people think they're capable of in all those scenarios is like the peak of achievement. It's what makes sports so great, right? And so whatever happens on this Sunday is probably going to result, whether it's Sam Darnold or Drake May, of guys doing things that maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago we didn't think they could really do, or some people doubted, right? And it's one of the coolest things about sports. And it's obviously why what's coming out on Friday on February 6th for the 30 for 30, the Philly special, that kind of hits that same theme and what makes sports so special. And like I said, it's like the peak of achievement. It's inspiring to everybody. It transcends sports. It's one of the coolest things there is. It's an amazing feeling, right? So I think we've captured that today pretty effectively. Doug, I can't tell you how much we appreciate your time. We'd love to have you longer, but I know you got a life to live and got things to do. We really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate your time. This has been.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again. Yeah, I can't wait for this special to come out on Friday. I'm going to watch it again, obviously, and on Friday. But it's a special week. The team is together. They're obviously everybody's out in San Francisco. Both teams. We were in Minnesota together, and I think there's a special bond there. And both teams are kind of feeling that right now, and it should be a great weekend and a good game. Well, thanks again for having me, guys.
Absolutely. This has been episode 32. Special thanks to Doug Pederson, our special guest. Make sure and hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at The Season Pod. And as always on Apple and Spotify, if you're listening just on the audio side, hit 5 stars. Always appreciate you listening. Have a good day.